Hey everyone, welcome back to Bad Bassin'. Today we're going to talk about 6 rigs that every new angler needs to have tied on. We're going to cover what you need to fish them and where you're going to fish them. Now let's get into it. So the first thing on our list is going to be a Texas rig style creature bait. So a Texas rig is essentially a weight that is pegged right in front of the hook. The hook is going to be an EWG, which is an extra wide gap hook, and you're going to have some sort of plastic creature bait hooked onto that hook. So you're going to pair this with a bait caster on a medium to medium heavy rod. Your line test is going to depend on the type of vegetation or water that you're in, but typically I have a 20-pound braid to a 15 or 10-pound mono leader. It can also be fluoro depending on what your personal preference is. I use the Improved Alberto. I did a video on how to tie the Improved Alberto that I'll link right here for you guys to be able to learn. You're going to fish this around some sort of cover or structure that you find on the lake. So it could be any sort of weed line, it could be any sort of pylons, it could be structure like docks or man-made or natural structure. But those are the places when you hear the words flipping or pitching, typically it's some sort of Texas rig style creature bait. So for number 2 on this list, it's going to be a Wacky Rigged Senko. So the Wacky Rig is essentially a number 2 hook. They make them specifically for Wacky Rigs. It can be weighted or not, but typically it is not weighted. You tie that on to your leader, again, a braid to fluoro or mono leader, and you feed that hook right through some sort of worm or Senko. So this is going to be fished on a spinning reel and spinning rod. So typically you're going to have a medium to medium light rod, and you're going to have lighter line, so you can have 10 to 15 pound braid to a mono or fluoro leader. So you're going to want to throw the Wacky Rig in and around structure. The magic of the Wacky Rig is that when it hits the water, it slowly starts to sink into that water column, and the Senko kind of vibrates back and forth as it moves through the water. That is when you typically see your reaction strikes from bass and why it's so effective. Now, you can change the speed of the Wacky Rig as it falls through the water column if you want to weight it, if you're fishing in maybe a little bit deeper water, but typically the Wacky Rig does really well just weightless. So number 3 on this list is the Ned Rig. So the Ned Rig is similar to the Texas Rig, except instead of that weight being pegged on the line in front of that hook, the weight is typically incorporated into the hook itself. I like the Ned Rig on a medium power fast action rod. You're going to want to use typically braid to mono or fluoro leader. I use 20-pound braid to a 15-pound mono leader using the Improved Alberto knot. The benefit of the Ned Rig is it is a very versatile bait. So there is not really a place that you can't fish the Ned Rig. You're only really limited with the Ned Rig by the amount of weight that you use for it. The lighter you go, the longer it's obviously going to take if you're in deeper water. You want to try to go as light as possible depending on the depth of your water. So you can fish this in a lot of different areas. I actually have a video about how to diagnose a lake that I'll link here for you guys to go and watch. But the Ned Rig is a very versatile bait that you can fish in around structure. You can also fish it on transition areas, and I'll go into more of that and that terminology in the video that I'm going to link about diagnosing the lake. The one thing with the Ned Rig that you do want to pay attention to is it's got to be a clean or rocky bottom. If you have heavy vegetation or you have a lot of crap that's sitting on the bottom, this is a bottom bait, so it's not going to work very well. The Ned Rig is an excellent bait. It gets bit when a lot of things won't, and it's extremely good for smallmouth. So number 4 here is the ChatterBait. Now, I have a video that I take a deep dive into the ChatterBait, everything you need to know about it. I can link that for you, but essentially what the ChatterBait is it's a jig head hook with a skirt that has a blade on the front, and as it moves through the water, it vibrates and shimmies back and forth, causing sound and, of course, a visual attractant for the fish. So I fish the ChatterBait on a bait caster with a casting rod that is a medium to medium heavy. Typically, it's going to be either moderate fast or fast action. So typically, again, I use 20-pound braid to 15-pound mono using the improved Alberta knot to tie my leader. Now, when it comes to the color of the chatterbait that you're going to want to choose, a lot goes in it. I have a video that you can check out about color and bass fishing, and it goes everything that you need to know, where we go and do a deep dive into the cardinal rules of bass fishing and color that I'll link for you here. But essentially, what you're going to want to do is fish the chatterbait around any sort of structure, transition areas that we've talked about, or weed lines. Those are all really good places for you to fish the chatterbait. You can fish it fast, slow. There's a lot of different techniques. Again, you can check out that video and we go a deep dive into it. But the chatterbait is one of my favorite baits to throw. So number 5 here is the Carolina rig. So the Carolina rig is essentially where you have a bullet weight that is 2 to 3 feet from the end of your line on your leader. You're going to have a hook that is typically a 2 to 3/0 EWG or straight shank hook. You're going to use some sort of fluke or swim bait with this. There's a variety of different baits. So again, I have a video that you can watch that talks about everything you need to know about the Carolina rig. But essentially, what you want to do is use a spinning reel with a spinning rod. Typically, I have a medium to medium heavy, and I'm going to have 20-pound braid to 15-pound mono. It's important for this one, in my opinion, to have the mono so that way you get the buoyancy from the mono when you're fishing this rig. You're going to want to fish the Carolina rig in any sort of transition area. So think drop-offs and anywhere between 8 to 15 foot of water. Typically, that's the best place to fish it because you're looking for bass that are a little bit deeper. It's an easier rig that gets you a little bit deeper than most other ones. So number 6 here is a topwater frog. So I don't think there's anything more fun in bass fishing than having a bass blow up on your frog when you're fishing topwater. So the bait itself is pretty self-explanatory. It's either going to be some sort of hollow body frog, which is soft, or a hard body frog. So for this, you want to use heavy duty gear. So you're going to have it on a bait caster with a heavy powered rod. Now I use straight braid on this and I don't use a leader. The reason being is because typically you're going to throw this in very thick vegetation or lily pads. When the bass hit this frog, they're going to grab it and then dive down. So you're going to have to bring them out of very thick vegetation. So a lot of people use straight braid, and the test depends on your personal preference. I typically use 50-pound test. I've seen a lot of people that use 65-pound test. And again, you're going to want to fish this around vegetation or the edge of weed lines, some sort of place where you would naturally assume that frogs would be present. Okay, everyone, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please leave a comment if you guys want to add something or you think I missed something. Again, I'll have all those videos that I talked about where I kind of take a deeper dive into some of these things linked in the description. Please make sure you like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.